What's up, Inspire Vision, plus anybody I might be catching on YouTube? Today we're doing an accelerated Algebra I course. Now we are on day 1 of 18 on this course, and each day I'm going to talk about different topics in Algebra I. So let's get to it. It is time to learn some math. Now why do I have a big Texas flag in the middle of the screen? It's because we are preparing for the STAAR test that is coming up. The STAAR test is coming on July 12th, so this video is made for the lesson that is presented on June 6th. And the way that we have summer school is we have 16 days of instruction plus two review days in July. So the STAAR test has 5 reporting categories. 11 questions come from category 1, which is where we're going to focus in on, especially this week. 12 questions are coming from reporting category 2, 14 from 3, 11 from 4, and 6 from 5. So today we're focusing on category 1, TEKS 8.10. And the way that we're doing the lesson today is we're going to do 1 star release question, 7 guided practice questions where I'm going to break it down step by step, and then 10 independent practice questions that I want you to do on your own. Then we're going to apply everything we've learned to do 2 more STAAR questions. Now, before we get going, hit subscribe so you can catch each one of these 16 lessons. That'll help you prepare for STAAR. All right, let's get to it. Here is the first STAAR question that introduces our topic today. Now, if you feel overwhelmed, stay with me because I'm going to explain this one kind of briefly, and then we're going to get into easier problems so we can work our way up to doing these type of questions. But in this question, we see 3 sets of parentheses. Whenever we see parentheses in a problem, we need to distribute. Now what distribute means is we're going to take whatever's on the outside of the parentheses and we're going to multiply by the inside. So if we look at this first set of parentheses, we have 0.5 on the outside. So we're going to multiply 0.5 times negative 12c. Then we're going to multiply 0.5 times 6. This is what I'm going to do first. After I do this, then I'm going to move on to the second set of parentheses. But let's do what I have in red first. So 0.5 times negative 12c becomes negative 6c. Now notice when I multiply 0.5 times negative 12c, I'm only multiplying the coefficients. But I have to remember that I have a c here. So when I write my answer as negative 6c, I bring down the c. Then I multiply 0.5 times 6. Now there's no variable there, no c there, no x there. I don't have to worry about that. And it's going to become positive because it's a positive times a positive, so it stays positive. Now here's the tricky one. When I have negative 3 in front of the second set of parentheses. Often people mistake that and forget all about that negative sign, but we can't forget about it. So we're going to multiply negative 3 times c, and there's really a 1 in front of the c. But negative 3 times c becomes negative 3c. And then negative 3 times 4 is negative 12. So the story here, the thing that I need you to remember is negative 3 times 1 is negative 3, but bring down the c. Can't forget about it. All right, hopefully you got it. Or hopefully at least are able to follow along. Here comes the next parentheses. Now I need to multiply positive 10 times c. I'm going to get positive 10c. And then 10 times negative 5 is negative 50. So this is everything written out, everything distributed. I'll talk about these steps in a second, which step has the mistake. But let's finish the question by combining our like terms. Our like terms in this question are negative 6c, negative 3c, and 10c. Now, notice how I said each one of these were negatives by themselves, or at least the first one and the second one are negative by themselves. But if I'm writing it out like this, if I'm using a calculator, you have to type in the negative sign with the 6 because it's my first term, and then subtraction sign with your second term because it's not your first term. So this makes a big difference when you're typing your answer in your calculator. Because if you try to do both of these as minus or both of these as negatives, you're going to get a wrong answer or an error in your calculator. But negative 6 minus 3 plus 10 comes out to be 1. Just remember to write your C. Then I have 3 minus 50, 3 minus 12 minus 50, which comes out to be negative 59. So when I'm typing this in my calculator, this is a minus and this is a minus because those are both second and third terms, not my first term. Only negative if it's my first term. Okay, now let's finish this question. So my answer is 1c minus 59, but none of my steps have that. So let's see where the mistake is. In step 1, they had negative 6c plus 3. I also have negative 6c plus 3. So no mistake there. Step 1 is right. In step 2, they have negative 3c minus 12. I also have that. So step 2 is right. Step 3, we have plus 10c minus 50. That's what I have, so step 3 is right. Now step 4, we don't have what they have. They have 7c minus 41. That means they made a mistake when they combined like terms. So step 4 is the answer that was done incorrectly. Okay, so this is where we're trying to head with this lesson, but let's first get good at distributing. In order to do that, we're going to do 7 examples where we're going to do guided practice. So here's our guided practice. I'm going to give you 10 seconds to write this down if you're writing down notes, which I highly encourage, and then I'm going to start working them out. So if you need more time, just hit pause. All right, let's do it. So the first question, we have 4x minus 8, then parentheses x plus 3. The tricky thing on this one is we got to know what to distribute. Since I have 2 things in front of my parentheses, I can only distribute what's directly in front of the parentheses. So this 4x, that's going to drop down. So I'll rewrite it by itself. Now the 8 that's in front of the parentheses, I need to take the sign with it. So negative 8, and then I need to multiply it times the 1. So the reason why I have negative 8x as the answer is because I did negative 8 times 1 to get negative 8. And then I remembered that this has an x, so I had to write it with an x down here. Okay? Now, the next one, the next parentheses, I multiply negative 8 times 3, a positive 3. That gives me a negative answer if I'm using my calculator, but I have to write it as minus 24 on the end. Now, I'm not finished with this question. I need to combine like terms. My like terms in the problem are the 4x and the minus 8x. If I'm combining them together, I'm not typing an x in the calculator. I just have to remember to write it after I do 4 minus 8. Then I'm going to bring down the negative 24 because there's nothing to combine it with. So hopefully this makes sense. And this answer is one of my answer choices, and it is B. All right, moving on to number 2. Number 2 also has a parentheses, but they're trying to trick you. We got to understand that. There's nothing in front or behind this parentheses that stands for multiplication. I do have a plus sign, but that doesn't mean multiplication. So there's no reason at all for this parentheses. So that means I can just rewrite this problem without parentheses. Makes it a little bit easier to understand. Now my next step is to combine like terms. I have both y's, x's, and a number without an x or y. So I have to combine each one of these together. Since I have a y to begin with, I'm going to start with the y. So negative 7y plus 6y. Again, if you're using your calculator, you have to write negative 7 plus 6 without the y in the calculator because that would be bad. And we don't want to ever type x or y in our calculator unless you're using the y equals key. And the answer to negative 7 plus 6 is negative 1. Okay, now I need to combine my x's. With my x's, I have to remember that there's really a 1 in front of that x. And then 1 minus 2 in my calculator is negative 1x. Just remember that x. And then finally, the 4, you can just bring that down. All right, this is my answer, but none of those answer choices are there except for D. The only thing different with D is they didn't put a 1 in front of my variable y and x. But that's okay. You don't have to write 1 or -1, positive 1 or -1 in algebra. It's just something special about variables in algebra. Okay, number 3 is totally different. And the reason why I have number 3, it's called translation of algebraic expressions, is because we're trying to get ready for word problems on STAAR. So this is to get us a little bit more confidence when we see word problems in case we have to translate a word problem to an equation, which they often have us do. So anytime you have a fraction, just know that it means division. So I'm going to show you a bunch of word phrases, and we have to pick the one that means division. So the word increased means addition, decrease means subtraction. This is the one that's talking about division, so that's the answer choice that I need to pick. Okay, hopefully this is pretty easy. Again, and it's just to prepare us for the word problems. All right, so like I said in the beginning, we're doing 7 questions where I'm doing guided practice. So here come the next 3. Okay, if you're writing this down, I'm going to go over these questions in about 10 seconds. So pause the video if you need a little bit more time. All right, on number 4, we don't have a parentheses at all. But what we do need to remember, even though this says x squared, is that there's really a 1 in front of that x squared. So when I combine my like terms, I'm doing 1 plus 6 plus 5, just the coefficients in front of x squared. But when I write my answer, I have to put 1 plus 6 plus 5, which is 12, with an x squared. Okay, on number 5. Number 5 looks tricky because they have a parentheses in the middle of the problem. And we need to start with that parentheses. That parentheses means distribute. And what we distribute is the number that's just in front of the parentheses, which is a -3. You have to take the sign with it. But what do we do with these extras? Well, these extra terms, you just need to bring them down. So you either need to bring them down before you distribute or after distribute. It's your choice as long as you don't forget. Now, this -3 times 7, -3 times 7 becomes a positive 21. And then -3 times 1x, which is, we're just multiplying the 1 that's in front of x, is -3 and bring down the x. Very important to bring down this x. Because when you combine like terms, I have 2 x's. Now again, we have to be careful with our signs here. When we combine -3 and -1 together, the number in front is a negative symbol. The second one, you have to use a subtraction symbol if you're using a calculator, and that becomes -4x. Okay? Then we do 1 plus 21. 1 plus 21, those are both positive numbers. That should be easy, and that is positive 22, which is one of our answers. Okay, number 6. Number 6, they did something crazy and they put x to the 8th power in number 6. Why? Well, the only thing I can combine that with is something exactly the same. It has to have the exact same exponent, x to the 8th power y. And we have 2 of those. So since we have 2 of those, we're only going to combine the coefficients, which 3 plus 2 is 5. We don't change the exponent unless we're multiplying these together, and today we're just adding these together. Multiplying comes much later. Okay? Then we need to combine our xy's. Our xy's in the problem are positive 6 and -1. Positive 6 and -1 combine to be positive 5xy. And now we need to combine the -3 and positive 9. -3 and positive 9, since I have 2 terms that don't have an xy in it, and that is positive 6. Okay, and that is an answer choice. All right, next. Next, we have another word translation, or algebraic expression translation. And the tricky thing about this one is the word quotient. Anytime you see quotient in a word problem, that means division. So with division, you just need to know what goes on top of the fraction, what goes on the bottom of the fraction. and you read it left to right. So the left part, whatever comes first goes on top of the fraction, whatever's on the bottom goes on the, or whatever second goes on the bottom of the fraction. And the answer choice that has that is D. Okay, now I am about to show you some questions where I want you to try to do them on your own, and I'm going to quickly cover the answer. So if you had me in class, you did 15, but this video only has 10 questions I want you to do on your own. And if you have me in class, these are completely different 10 questions that you can do on your own. Okay, so changing the screen to those 10 questions. Here they are. And I want you to write down these questions on your own. For the video link's sake, I'm going to go on in about 20 seconds. So write them on your own so you can practice. Okay, I'm about to change the screen to show you your next 5 questions. So number 1 is 2x plus 8, parentheses x plus 5. Number 2, you're translating that word expression. Number 3, you're combining like terms. Number 4, you're translating that expression. And number 5, you need to distribute correctly and then combine like terms. But again, I'll cover these answers in a little bit. Here come your next 5 questions. On number 6, you need to translate that. Number 7, you have to be very careful with distributing, combining like terms. Number 8, also combine like terms after distributing. And then number 8, translate it. And number 9, distribution again. Or number 10, distribute again. Okay, so if you need time, pause this video. I'm moving on in about 10 seconds. Okay, so here come the answers. So hopefully you're ready. On number 1, what you should have done is distribute 8 times x to be 8x, and then 8 times 5 to be 40. After you did that, you should combine the 2x and the 8x to be 10x to get your answer for B. On number 2, we need to translate and find something that means plus. So the phrase that means plus is increased by, but I'm not going to pick B because B has an extra phrase in front which is 20 times. So your answer is C. On number 3, I need to combine my y's together. Positive 2 plus 5 is going to be positive 7y. And then 4x minus 8x comes out to be negative 4x. So my answer is C. On number 4, we have to pick something that means multiply. It's not going to be A because there's a plus sign right in front of the parentheses. The only one that means multiply is when there is not a symbol at all that's an understood multiplication. Number 5, we need to distribute negative 7 to x, which comes out to be negative 7x, and negative 7 to positive 1, which comes out to be negative 7. Then combine your x's together, and that becomes negative 2. Alright, the next 5. We have quotient, so we have to pick the one that means division, which is A. On number 7, we need to distribute 5 to x and 5 to negative 3. So that's going to be 5x minus 15. And then negative 4 to x and negative 4 to 3. That's going to become negative 4x minus 12. Now we have 3 x's in this problem, so you're doing 3 plus 5 minus 4. That comes out to be 4x, positive 4x. And then negative 15 minus 12 come out to be negative 27. So that answer is C. All right, number 8. There's 2 ways to look at this rule. First off, if you want to think of negative 1 times negative 7 by distributing, That would be a good way to think about this problem, and that turns it into positive 7. Or you can think of the rule, you can never have two negative signs in math, not a negative minus sign. So a negative minus sign turns into a positive as well. Okay? Now, combine your like terms, positive 6 plus 7 come out to be 13. On number 9, we have a product, so you have to pick the one that means product, which would be C. On number 10, you have to bring down the negative 4 and the plus 3 because they have nothing to do with what we need to distribute. We're only distributing negative 9. So negative 9 times positive 3 becomes negative 27. Negative 9 times x become negative 9x. Then I combine my two x's together. Negative 9 plus 3 is negative 6. And my two whole numbers together, negative 4 and negative 27 is negative 31. So my answer is D. Okay, so we've gone through the lesson part, independent practice part. What we're going to do next is 2-star questions and apply this concept that we're trying to learn today, which is mainly keeping track of our positive and negative signs, keeping track of our when we combine like terms, and keeping track of distributing correctly. So here's the next star question that hopefully is not that hard after today's lesson. It does have something a little new in it, but I'll get to it when we explain it. So we're about to tackle the question of 2m parentheses 3/2 m plus 1 close parentheses plus 3 times 3/5 m minus 2. Okay, here we go. So the first thing we're going to notice is we have parentheses in this problem, so we're going to distribute. When we distribute, we're doing 2 times 3/2. 2 times 3/2 you can actually type in your calculator if you don't know. You're just going to type 2 times 3, and to do a fraction in a calculator, you just hit the division sign 2. You can put fractions in parentheses if you want, or you can just type it straight like this. It'll follow order of operations, which is just fine. But either way, you're going to get the answer of 3. Then we're going to multiply n times m. This is what's new in this question. N times m is going to become m squared. Then we're going to multiply 2m times positive 1. So we're only multiplying 2 times 1 and bringing down the m to be 2m. That's the first parentheses. Moving on to the second parentheses, we're doing 3 times 5/3. 3 times 5/3 is going to become 5m because we're not going to forget about the m. And then 3 times negative 2 comes out to be negative 6. Now, hopefully you're looking at this question and you're saying, I have a bunch of m's, maybe I should combine them all together. Well, you shouldn't combine all of them together, just the ones that have the same exponent, which are these, because these have an understood exponent of 1. Those are my only like terms. So my final answer comes out to be 3m squared plus 7m minus 6. Okay, last question for today. This one is similar. They just trying to trick us by putting a C and a D in a question, but I'll get to that in a second. So we're doing 3c times 1/3 d minus 9, then negative 7 parentheses c plus 1, plus d parentheses c plus 4. If you need more time to write this down, then pause the video. Okay, in this question, we're also distributing. So I'm showing that by you drawing my arrows, and we're doing 3c times 1/3 d first. Now don't get scared with the variables. We're just multiplying the coefficients first. So 3 times 1/3 comes out to be 1. Here's what's new in this question. I'm also multiplying c times d. It doesn't come out to be c squared or d squared. What it comes out to be is the c and the d side by side, because they're not the same variable. Okay, so that's the first arrow. The second arrow, much easier. 3c times negative 9. 3c times negative 9 comes out to be negative 27, but we're not going to forget the c that's on the outside. So that just becomes negative 27c. Okay, the next parentheses, we're multiplying -7 times c. So -7 is really being multiplied times the 1 that's in front of c. And then don't forget about the c again, and that's -7c. And then -7 times +1 is just a -7. So off to our third set of parentheses. We're doing d times c. D times c comes out to be dc. Or if you notice we have cd already in the problem, it's totally fine to write this as cd to begin with. Alright, and then we're going to multiply d times 4. D times 4 is 4d. So let's combine our like terms. Our like terms to begin with is the cd and the dc here, which we're only combining the coefficients in front of both of these, which they both have an understood 1. So 1 plus 1 is 2 CD. And if you're asking yourself, why would they say it as CD instead of DC? It's because they're following the order of the alphabet and putting C before D, because that's how it falls in the alphabet. Okay, we have more like terms, and that is our -27 and our C and our -7C. So when we combine them together, we're just using our coefficients, -27 minus 7. So don't forget that this is our first term. So we're going to type that in as negative in our calculator. This is our second one, so that's now a minus. And we're also not forgetting the C. So it comes out to be -34. Okay, what about these two terms? Are we combining these together? No, we're not, because they're not the same. So you're going to drop them both down. I'm going to put the one with the letter first, and then the -7 last. And that is our answer. Okay, that was our last star question for today. So please check my YouTube for each day, each lesson for the day, so we can get through the 16 days of instruction. Until next time, thank you.